Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us with In the Flow. Spiritual CFO and Jessica K. We are here today to talk to you about what is flowing through us. So I pose a question to Robin. What role does creativity have with spirituality? Because I'm noticing that a lot of people that I'm interacting with are feeling spiritually stuck and are also having a big lack of creativity in their life. So, what do you think?
Okay, so in my own journey, I I was so rigid and just very much like things had to be a certain way. They needed, right? I was an accountant for many years. My dad was a Virgo, an ex-Marine, so like raised under a man who very much was like things need to be a certain way. That like very much perfectionist ideas like shoved into my life and into my brain for a very long time. So once I started using creativity to heal, it really did help me to connect to source in ways that I never thought possible. So in my own journey, it's really helped me as far as being open to the energy that is spirit. It has helped me to heal on so many ways, right? To get out of that like linear kind of thinking and to thinking that things need to be a certain way. It's helped me to create in my life, like to create possibilities and realities that I wouldn't really have thought about. So it's like it's expanded, right? Because for me, Pisces energy, right, can be like very creative and like in that kind of which is ironic because it's the opposite of Virgo, right? Which Jessica and I were chatting about before we hit record that our north nodes, north node in Virgo, south node in Pisces. So I think and actually for a lot of people, right, whether your nodes are there, you still have Virgo, you still have Pisces somewhere in your chart. So it can help you to kind of break those patterns of Virgo says I should do it this way. Virgo says everything needs to be nice and neat and perfect. And Pisces says, well, actually, let me kind of bring in that higher way of thinking. Let me bring in these other possibilities that our human brain would not have thought about. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
No, I love it. It brings out this non-linear. What I notice is a lot of people want it to be A, B, C, D, and our, society, our culture is very linear. You do this and then you do this and then you do this and this is how you do a project and this is how you do. And what the strength of a lot of spiritual workers are is this non-linear approach. So we can tap into seeing things from a different way, having out of the box solutions. And as I'm saying this, it's like that very Andromeda galaxy energy of seeing things non-linearly, having out of the box solutions, having a different vantage point. And then
Mm,
also coming into this, like everybody has something to add into the soup. So, what is the individual contributions and the worthiness behind all of that? And I
mm.
think when we start opening up to, okay, it doesn't have to look a certain way, then we can become a little bit more curious about what it can look like and just ask questions of, the universe, of our guides, of the people around us. And I also put it out there like I need more information. Like, okay, I'm not seeing this, clearly. So maybe more clarity. And I want to have a different viewpoint. So can you bring me information? Can you bring me guidance that allows me to get closer to my alignment or where this is aligned?
Yeah, because I mean, I think what I have seen a lot with clients and myself as well is that I think we limit ourselves so much because we get stuck in that human, like it has to be this way, it can only be this way. I think creativity puts us in that space of like possibility, right? Like childlike wonder. And it's beautiful because it allows us to imagine things that, again, like our human mind wouldn't have even thought about. So it's like connecting with the divine. And then we bring our own dreams, our own desires that we've kept hidden. You know, you're told as a little kid, right? If somebody wants to be an astronaut, it's like, oh no, you can't be an astronaut. Like you need to pick something that's reasonable, right? Um, so being in that space of possibility, I think it can open so much for us. It can, you know, and it's fun too. It's fun to be in that space.
Yeah, it lights up a different piece of us
Mm.
that maybe we don't have room for on a day to day.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was sharing with Jessica, like I didn't realize how creative I was because I had such wounding around it. So when I first started being creative, I can't remember what exactly. I probably was art journaling. So I went to this workshop and I remember I had anxiety. Like we pulled out these art journals and I can't, she was like, the lady was going through, she was teaching, and we all sat down to do a page. And I just had such anxiety. And I was like, you know, what if I do it wrong? Like, and even actually before that, I think I was coloring one day or doing something. And I was going to pick a color and I was like, I would freeze because, and it sounds so silly, but like how we do one thing is how other areas of our life, right? How we do one thing is how we do all things. So being in that creative space and just, okay, it's all right if I choose the wrong color. It's okay if I paint this and I don't like it at the end. It helps you to break out of those perfectionism tendencies, which I think a lot of us actually have. I think we hold ourselves back because, you know, we think that it has to look a certain way, or we think we get so attached to like what the end result is instead of kind of enjoying that process.
Well, and it sounds like, a stretch for a lot of people could be engaging in creativity, like
Mm,
going out and putting yourself in that situation where it's not structured and seeing what happens. It's kind of like a safe stretch that people could engage in where it's not like super risky, but it might be for some of our parts, some of our beingness to be in that situation and to feel what comes up for us when
mm,
we are in something that may not be so structured and we're asked to kind of pull forth some of those parts of us that may not be around as often. I know for me, that's one of the things I love about creativity, and it was mandalas. I, understood them intellectually through psychology and Jung. And I thought, well, this is a great, psychological experiment here. And I went to a mandala class, and it was the perfect thing for me because you just, you pick a color, you pick a medium, whether it's a pencil or a pen or whatever, and you just do one thing. Like you don't have to think a whole lot. The lady just said, do one thing. So it was like, okay, I can do one thing and then I can do another thing and then I can do another thing. And then I couldn't stop. Like my room is surrounded in these mandalas that I've painted. And it's something as I'm talking about, I'm like, I really need to tap into that again because it also allowed me to freely flow and I could just pick it up, do a little work on it, put it down. I didn't feel like I needed to finish it, but it allowed me to ebb and flow with that creativity. And sometimes it's like, oh, I want to paint three different ones at a time. And while that one waits, I'll work on this one. And I would actually put them either on my wall or on my fireplace, like partially done in different phases, and just walk in there and think, what is one thing I want to do? And I want to paint a triangle over there, and I want to paint a circle over there. And I would do that and I would leave. So I was able to kind of consistently engage my creativity in little droplets.
mm,
And it really helped me move through, years of my life. And so I do feel that now because I've gotten back into wanting to do creative things. And that's like, well, I have to draw it out and then I have to paint it and I have to finish it. It's like, where did this come up? Like we've already been doing things differently for so many years, but it'll come up again. It's like, oh, okay, I see where I'm caught in this rigidity around starting and finishing and even kind of putting confines on my creativity. And that's probably why I feel a little stifled. So it's a good reminder. Now I need to start painting.
um, the other thing that came to me like as you were sharing is I think when I started my healing journey, I right, my empathic abilities just I started to tune into them more and like become more aware of like what I was feeling, and that I felt a lot, and that I was having all these past wounds that were coming up for healing, and like I didn't understand a lot of it. So art was another way for me to express those things that I couldn't really give a voice to, right? That I could just put it all on paper or whatever it was, whatever medium it was. And it was almost like taking that energy and like channeling it into something. I'm having a hard time talking today. So I think there's like so many uses for it as well, right? Like it can be very expansive, and it can help you to have downloads. It can help you to break patterns. That's the other thing that spirit has shown with me like very strongly, is that we're a sum of our habits, right? So what you were sharing about like being intentional with it as well, it can help you to break those patterns that you have, right? If you know that you struggle with like overworking because you're like, I need to get all this done right now. I need to finish this task. If you're very intentional with it, you say, okay, actually, I'm going to take as long as I take to paint this mandala. You're healing that pattern in your body. It seems like a very simple thing, but it's giving you that. Yeah, I'm getting confirmation here, so I probably need to do some some healing around this. um it can just be a very intentional, beautiful, easeful way to do shadow work and to do very deep spiritual growth, because you're working with the unseen. I mean, I think, right, there's so many different ways that we can heal, but I believe that healing through creativity it's a higher level. When you say it's like yeah.
Yeah, it's that, like you said, we're co-creating. So it's putting us in the driver's seat for this co-creation, where in life we may be like, well, why is this happening to me? Why hasn't this happened? And
Mhm.
and creativity just pops us right in there. And we are in the driver's seat. Now, granted, information may be coming through us, but we get to feel that flow. And it is very much a healing aspect. Um, I love that you mentioned that, because it's like shadow work. You say shadow work, and some people are like, I don't want anything to do with that. That's scary. And then I talk a lot about love and nurturing, and there's that softness. So it's like, okay, Jessica, what's going on here? And it's like, in order to do the shadow work, to do the hard, to get into that, that Scorpio, that underbelly, the things that are not so pretty, you have to have that. It's almost like, if you can bring the love in there, if you can bring the creativity in there, it can shift and transform it, because it's all about transforming. It's about being the poison eating peacock. The peacock is beautiful. It can go and eat poison, doesn't matter. It transforms it. So, how are we using love to alchemize and creativity to alchemize things that are hard and stuck? It's like, oh, this is really hard and stuck. So that's when you go and get the, heavy duty cleaner. Well, that is love and creativity. Like that's
Mhm.
the strongest stuff that there is in the universe, is that love and creativity, and working with it in a gentle way to allow it to loosen up. Because I remember I had like sap on my car at one point in time and I couldn't get it off. So I went out there with a screwdriver. Well, all I did was scratch my car. Like I
Yeah.
made it worse. So like how we're addressing ourselves, is it making it worse or is it making it better? And at my ripe old age of 40, I've realized that softer is always better. Like there is some, you know, old healing remedy or old cleaning, whatever. And it's always like the most softest and subtle thing. And it's getting this concretized gunk off of it. And that's the deal with us too, is like, okay, do I have the courage? That's where the courage comes in. Do I have the courage to have my heart fully open to love no matter what I come across? Can I engage that playful child and that creativity and bring her with me no matter what's going on? And we're going to make a game out of some of the horrors in my life. We're going to play around it. We're going to dance through it. We're going to allow ourselves to be nurtured and held as we're addressing some really difficult things. And that's what softens us and opens us and transmutes the trauma and the very difficult, hard experiences. And just once again, Earth School is not easy. This is very, very hard. So bringing in those higher dimensions and frequencies of love, of creativity, like that is the gift that we were given. And it doesn't
Mm,
have to be perfect. We don't have to be a famous artist. Like, just what are we flowing to do, or even playing an instrument? We don't have to be perfect at it. This is for us. This isn't, we don't have to monetize everything we do. And part of that was a big deal for me, because I would do something. Oh, are you going to sell it? And it's like, oh, I guess I could make money. It's like, no, you
mhm.
don't have to monetize everything you do. You can do something just for the sheer joy of doing it, of
Yeah,
having it and feeling that flow while you're doing it. No one else has to like it. No one else has to see it. But if it makes you happy and makes your heart burst open, then you know you're on the right track.
yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. I think that it's such an important thing for us to get out of things needing to look the right way or the perfect way because it, again, I see a lot of people struggling with imposter or I'm not doing enough. Like there's so much of this just kind of workaholic vibe that we have in society. And it's like, when are we taking the time for play? When are we taking the time to just be childlike? In astrology, the fifth house it's ruled by Leo and it's all about creativity. It's sexuality, which is also your second. Is that your second or your
Second
third?
chakra, yeah, it's that sacral, it's creativity, it's sexuality.
It's, like that childlike wonder of putting on something silly and like running around the house and like building a fort. It's like, why do we stop doing that when we become adults? Just allowing yourself to be in that space. I think it's fun too, right? Like you said, like this earth school is not easy.
Oh,
You might as well make it fun when you can, right? When you have those moments where you can play or when you can create, take them, even if it's 5 minutes, because it's going to help you to enjoy life in a much deeper way than if you're constantly just, no, I have to put my head down. And which is ironic, actually. This just popped in. Like, I think so many adults, the only way that they feel safe to express that childlike or that playful energy is when they've been drinking.
yeah.
It's like, oh, well, and then we almost justify it. We're like, oh, it's okay, they were drinking. Well, why can't you act like a child if you're not drinking? Like, I act like a child when I'm not drinking. I'm probably goofier when I'm not drinking than if I am, but bringing that playfulness into your life whenever you can and just noticing how it shifts your energy. And right, it's if it feels good, play around with it. Play around with some coloring and I hate it. I don't hate it, but when I have clients that are like, oh, I'm not creative, I can't do that. No, no, no. We can all, right? Everybody can do something. Like you can do coloring books. You can, like, there's so many different ways to be creative that it doesn't need to look only one way. Like you don't have to just be a painter to be creative. There's so many different ways. That's why I love art journaling because really so much of it for me is like I just gather media materials and it's almost like a vision board. Like I cut out pictures, I can write words, I'll find stickers or like little books that have like positive sayings. Like it just makes me happy to like complete it and then look at it and kind of soak it in. It's just fun. I just like doing it. And there's something like that tactile experience too. Wouldn't you say that? And I'm curious, like, where do you think that stems from? Because I feel like that's also an important part of it is like the physicality of it.
Yeah. Uh, I would say if we think about creativity, the fifth house, it's about the body. So it's the senses. So you think creativity. So how does it impact the senses? So drawing, even touching, like what does it feel like when you have a warm fuzzy blanket, or what is that sensation? And this goes back to, how are we addressing the five senses? How are we nourishing them? Creativity can be food. It could be making a perfume or essential oil blend, or um, perfume. Like it can be any of those things. So then there's also taste. Like, does the food taste good? Is it something that tastes good is it coffee or hot chocolate or wine? Like, is there something that tastes good? And the texture. Like
Hmm.
some people, I like the taste of a really good smoothie. It's good. I like the texture of it. It's delicious. So, and even looking at things, are going and looking at art. Are you
Hmm.
engaging with other people's creativity and being open to going to look at art? And some people are saying, okay, this is the person who drew it, and this is the name, and this is what it means. It's like, oh, Jessica, do you want to hear it? No. Like when I look at it, this is what I see, and this is what I think, and this is what art elicits from me, what poetry elicits from me. So,
Hmm.
poetry is hearing. So, what are we doing to nourish the senses, and how is that moving us creatively? Oftentimes, that's one of my like, I need inspiration, so I'm gonna read a poem. I'm gonna go outside and let the wind blow on my skin. I'm going to smell the beautiful jasmine outside. Like when I engage my senses, which is super easy, everybody has senses, everybody can engage them. What is evoked? Because that, in my opinion, is a chance to be with the divine. The divine
Yeah.
created those flowers, created the food. Like there's this level of spirit in all of this. When somebody cooks a meal that's full of love and their spirit and they feel inspired, and you get to smell and taste and experience that, like that's being infused. So all
Hmm.
of these are ways for us to engage it in an indirect manner, which for me always elicits a direct, like I want to write about that, I want to tell somebody about that, I want to channel that experience through and share it with others.
Hmm.
So that allows me to bring it in, even if I can't find my own inspiration or I'm being too rigid with myself about creating, like taking that kind of indirectly and allowing it to move me, like a muse, like allowing that muse to move through us and feel that love and feel that spark, I think is just as important. And we can engage it with the five senses.
You know what's so funny? I was sitting here thinking, this is like creativity, right? Because when Jessica and I had plans to chat today, we had a completely different idea about what we were going to chat about, but definitely, right? The name is fitting. We're definitely in the flow because we were having a conversation just, I was asking her for some input on some things that are going on in my life. And the conversation just started to flow in this direction. And we were like, okay, she's like, all right, we need to hit record now. So it's beautiful once you allow, it's like surrendering to that divine will, but then also playing with it, like allowing it to come through and to be what it wants to be, but then also engaging with it. Like, oh, okay, spirit, I see you. You want to talk about creativity now? You
You're
have a
right.
play.
Well, and also this is a convergence of energies, right? So myself on my own, who knows what I would have done today, yourself on your own. And we were drawn to co-create something with, there's multi levels, but that's one of the things I love is I have come to trust and surrender that whoever I'm with, something will be created out of that interaction. And if both of us have an intention to open to what comes through, then it's like, oh, there's three of us. There's spirit, there's all of our guides, there's our life experiences and what's coming through, and then there's us interacting. And it's so beautiful what that looks like. So once again, if we're seeking creativity, inspiration, find somebody. Like that's why not being alone and not being isolated is so important, is whenever we come into contact, whenever our energy comes in contact with the energy of another person, whether it's virtually, even watching this podcast or listening to it, like you're getting the energy frequencies, and there is something that happens. It's an alchemy of its own that is creating something. So it is so important when you're not feeling at your optimal to feel into, oh, it might be nice to go take a walk in nature, or it might be nice to call a friend. What do I have space for? And honoring ourselves, maybe it is just that we need rest and stillness, but it also could be that we just need a catalyst. And that catalyst could be nature, it could be our friend, it could be a podcast, it could be looking at art or reading a poem. But, do I need catalyst right now? Yes. Okay. Can you help give me catalyst to help me move forward and to
Yeah.
clarify. And that's one of the other things that we've been talking about is just this idea of if we ask for it, and it seems almost immediate these days, if I ask for it, I want to explore my feminine in a deeper way. Like 2 hours later, here you are, by the way. So just ask for it. Ask for what you want. And it'll either help you clarify, like, oh, I didn't want that, but okay, I know a little bit more. I want this now, or it'll be exactly what you want. And for me, when I've been asking, it's like, I want to explore this more. Like, help me with my curiosity and bring me information about this. So it's not like, I want a brand new red car in my front yard. Like, no, I want to explore more about these ideas and these thoughts. I want to explore more about what the inspiration looks like and allow that to kind of grow and unfold. It's amazing. Every day is kind of this very curious journey where I'm consistently learning and things are being dropped in my way to help me. And that synchronicity is just like exponential.
One of the hacks that Spirit showed me, if you are desiring change, if you're feeling that stagnancy or you're just not sure about what you're manifesting, or like maybe the things that you're manifesting aren't happening in your life, you can two ways actually. One is you can start to, because we are that continual habitual energy that we're putting out into the world, right? So if you drive to work the same way every day, but you're wanting your life to be different, switch up your routine a little bit, right? Drive to work a different way. And it seems like really silly, it seems like really inconsequential, but what you're actually doing is you're in the ethers, right? In the energetic realms, you're getting that energy to move differently than it ever has before, which opens up new possibilities for you. It opens up new gateways that you, right? You're co-creating. I love it when I get the little body confirmation. The other thing that you can do is you can move things around your house. So you know that the energy is moving, you know that something new is wanting to come through. So with intention, with whatever, getting rid of things, purging. That's the other thing I did yesterday. Spirit had me clearing things out. So it can just be very simple things, right? I just went through my papers and I was getting rid of things that I didn't need anymore. I was just moving little crystals around the house, just kind of intuitively. You can also move furniture, but if that's not feasible for you, just little tiny trinkets, you can move them. You can just use your intention and just allow the energy to flow in a different way. It's going to, again, continue to create those new pathways and to open that creative space in the universe to allow different ways and possibilities that want to come through for you.
Yeah, and that is the greatest hack that I was taught. If something's feeling stuck, if I can't move forward or I want some clarity, to do exactly that, move things around with the intention, I'm going to move this around. I'm going to create change in my environment. I'm going to create movement in my environment with the intention of it changing and shifting me and shifting whatever the situation, whether it's, work or relationships. Um, but having intentionality around that, like I am doing this for this purpose, it's huge. It changes your environment, it changes you, it puts your mind in the action. Because that's the other thing too, is thinking about something's great, but if we can do something to put it into action, even like I want to get rid of this stuff energetically, and then burning it or cleaning out your email list, like doing different things to purge and putting that in motion, like I'm serious about it. I'm not just thinking about it. My body is physically responding to my intention and my desire. And I'm manifesting it in this 3D world. So from the infinite, from the mind into the 3D reality of shifting matter. I'm moving matter to align with my intention. And it's
Mm.
such a huge thing because that's what we're doing when we want something to change in our life. We are wanting to take something from the infinite and we are wanting to manifest it in the 3D now space. So we have to make moves in that 3D now space to see that shift happen. And it's magic. Like when we think about it, it's magic. Like we're literally creating something out of nothing. We are
Yeah,
powerful beings.
it is really cool. Yeah. It's almost like showing the universe, like, hey, I've had this idea. I'm doing this thing in the physical that lets you know that I'm ready for it to come in, that I trust that. And yeah, my angels are telling me some things I get to do later. Um, it's like trusting, like getting prepared for it, right? Like you're indicating to the universe, hey, I'm manifesting this thing, I'm creating this thing, which is all manifestation is really is co-creating. I'm bringing this thing into the physical. I'm going to prepare my space. I'm going to prepare my vessel. I'm going to prepare my surroundings to allow this thing to come in. It's yeah, quite amazing, right? To have that level of trust and um yeah, and just faith that the guidance that you're getting from the universe is your truth and it is this possibility that's coming through. It can be, quite badassery to have that level of faith, right?
Well, it's also a knowing. I can say I'm not there all the time, but there are certain things where I have known, like, this is going to happen. And so I've gotten rid of furniture. Well, we haven't gotten this thing yet. No, but I know we will have it. So now
Mhm.
there's a space for it. And having that knowing, that unshakable knowing in your being, like, it's wild because sure enough, there it is. Sure enough, these things happen. So it is about living in the end. Like, if I'm living in the end, I know that it's already going to happen or that it has happened. So why would I have a couch in the place where I needed to put this other thing? Because you can't stack the furniture on top of itself. You got to get rid of the couch. So get rid of the couch and then the next thing can come through. And that actually has been a lot of what I have been getting messages about is, okay, Jessica, you say you want this thing, but they can't coexist. Like, this and this cannot coexist. So you've got to continue to get rid of until there is enough space to be created for what you really want, what your heart is calling for. So that's my homework that just came through is are you
Yeah.
really ready for what you're asking for? And the answer is in this moment, no, but I know what I need to do to get even closer to that space of accepting it. Because if we don't believe that if we want it, but we don't believe we're going to get it, then we're not aligned with our desire or even aligned with what our soul, like my soul can want and, oh, I want to manifest it and I want to sit in this moment and I want to have it. And if I'm not living like I'm want to have it, I'm out of alignment. So I don't
Mhm.
get to have that. When I can bring myself into that alignment, then it can flow. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing with manifestation is, are we in alignment with our soul's desire, with what we say we want? Are we really there? Are we really
Mm.
meeting ourselves?
Well, and okay, like, because I think sometimes, like, I mean, I'm learning about this as much as I hope y'all are, and hope Jessica, like, as we're chatting, we're channeling information. I think that's the other reason that being in that creative space is so powerful because you're attuning your energy and you're learning, okay, what does it feel like to be in the flow? What does it feel like to be connected with spirit? What does it feel like to have these insights and these things that I'm creating like come forward? What does that feel like? So it is kind of the macro versus the micro, or whatever you want to think about it, right? Continuing to like take those ideas and that energy and put it into something physical. It's yeah, it's really powerful. So I'm going to ask you a question because intentionality keeps coming through, and I feel like that's a really beautiful topic. Like, should we get them to wait for another episode before we talk about intentionality, or should we chat about it
We
now?
can chat about it now, and there's also so many layers. So we can take off a layer and then we'll have more come through. That's where I will say that comments, statements, like, tell us, what is your experience? Is there some more, you talked about intentionality, but you didn't talk about this. Let us know, and we'll dive deeper into that as we are co-creating this together. So even your input, even your interaction in this helps to co-create. Like, it's an energy that continues to build, so
Mm-hmm.
you do have an impact, and
Yeah.
you can shift the conversations. And I know I just want to mention real quick, because you mentioned this before, like, you'll just go onto a YouTube and it may not be right at the beginning, but you'll just listen to it and it's like, that's exactly what I needed.
Mhm.
So even though we, recorded this and you're hopping in, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get exactly the nugget of wisdom that you need coming
Yeah.
through because you showed up open to receive. But yeah, let's talk about intentionality. It's one of
Okay,
my
so
favorite.
the story that I want to share with y'all, just because this was like a very clear, um, right? I've read about intentionality, I've been practicing it, right? All the things. I've been kind of dabbling in intentionality for years at this point. But a few years ago, I got introduced to ayahuasca, and I've gotten the opportunity to sit with her quite frequently, like in my own ceremonies. And then I've also gotten to hold space for other people in ceremony. So, right, when I was taking the medicine to heal, I would, right, you infuse your intention in the medicine, you infuse your intention in the ceremony. There's like lots of points where you're kind of speaking with spirit and the medicine of ayahuasca to share what you want to come through in the healing. So I had that experience first, and then I got to hold space in other people's ceremonies for them. And you also drink, in my experience, I also got to drink some of the medicine. And I just remember thinking, well, this is interesting. I'm not throwing up, I'm not purging. Like my body is responding differently to the medicine than other people who are sitting in the ceremony. And I was like, yeah, I drink, a little bit less, but like the light bulb moment happened. It's like, oh, it's not my intention.
Right.
My intention is to hold space for these people. My intention is to, right, to do whatever they need on their journey, to do energy work or to, like to prepare the food, whatever it was. My intention is completely different. So what I got taking the same medicine, being in the same ceremony space was vastly different, because in this ceremony, my intention was to heal. My intention was to expand, right? I was taking the medicine, it was my circle. In this ceremony, I was holding space for other people, and my intention was to hold space and to be a healer in that space. So that was like this huge light bulb moment for me about how much intentionality matters, and even just incorporating it into little things in our day. I think that can also open up, right? Because if we ask spirit, like you said earlier, if we ask for something and if it's in alignment, if it's for our highest good, the universe will bring that forward. So what's been like your aha moment with intention?
With intention, my aha moment has been the small things. It's been, what is ritual? What is ceremony? It's taking something mundane and it's making it spiritual. And that's because you're infusing it with your intention. So everything that comes out of our mouth, some people would say we are constantly casting spells. So what are we casting spells around? Our word, we are creating with our word everything that comes out. So what are we creating? And my father was my greatest teacher in this way. He is constantly reading and he's very aware of what he says. So my whole childhood, oh, I don't feel good. I have a tummy ache. Is that what you want? So he was like constantly kind of monitoring that. Like, is that what you want? And of course it was a little rigid. It caused a lot of like, what am I saying? And a lot of backlash. Like, Dad, I just want to be able to talk. And he's like, okay, well, you're still creating your reality while you're talking though. So, it's been something that I've always kind of been aware of what I'm saying, and definitely not perfect because there was that rebellion. Like, I just want to be able to talk and not be monitored. But it's true. It's true that we create what we want, whether we realize it or not. So we're creating with our word, we're creating with our actions. But then when you become intentional, and I
Mm.
think for me, it was around work. Like I work a 9 to 5. I have, worked since I was 15. And there was a large part of me that's like, okay, when can I be done with this? When can I have my passion, my real job, what I want? And I don't know. I'm sure it was, usually it's a confluence of things. So nothing ever happens like one time. Like it's like the universe gives me like this slideshow of the same thing where completely different people, completely different situations, all are showing up with the same message. And I'm like, okay, I get it. The fifth person has come across and said this thing or done this thing. So it's about me or this is for me. And so I started setting the intention that when I got up for work, I was getting up for, my calling.
Mm,
Everything I did was helping me with what I was going to be doing. And it's so crazy because I went from doing like direct patient care to doing kind of a program management where I would create training videos and do all of this stuff. So it became a lot of, creating material and videos. And now here I am, and people are like, "You're not scared to be on screen?" I'm like, I have been doing this for years. I have been sitting in front of a camera talking about, things that I'm aware of for years, and I was getting paid to do it for work. And now, like, because I set the intention that this was going to move me, that my 9 to 5 job was going to move me in the direction of what I was supposed to be doing that was aligned with my soul. Like, here
mm,
we have it. And there's nothing that feels better than to be able to sit here, have this conversation, and share what I know. So we can use that power of intention to shift anything. And when we say, okay, well, this is mundane and I'm waiting to get into my spiritual, if we can shift out of that and say everything is spiritual because I am a spiritual being animating
mm,
a physical world, and the fact that the spiritual being can move 3D matter is magic. Like
mm,
that is amazing. That is divine. So everything. So I have become more and more intentional and wanting more synchronicity. The other thing about intentionality is when we become more intentional, we realize that the divine is intentional. So
mm,
things, oh, it's a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. It's a synchronicity, and I got to see it. Like I
mm,
am paying attention enough. I believe in the intentionality of the universe enough that nothing is happening on accident. So everything is an opportunity for me to gain more information and for me to interact. And then I was just like, oh, grace, like, oh, the divine does love me and is here interacting with me all the time, and I am not separate. So that's where intentionality kind of led into this moving away from separateness and feeling like I'm constantly in the divine flow. And when we can make like, it's like these little shifts, we make these little shifts, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't feel separate.
mm.
So that wounding has really shifted because of intentionality for me. That's been like the biggest gift out of all of it.
Yeah, it's funny. Um, when Jessica, like, we've had conversations about doing podcasts, we've had conversations about chatting, and then the way that it unfolded was just very organic. She came up with the name. Like, I don't know if you thought about it before that, or like, did you come up with it on the fly, or?
It was pretty close. Like, yeah. I think it may have like right before, because we had planned to do a podcast and then both forgot, but then knew we had to be here. It's like, oh, I had all this stuff done, but I'm here right now. And then it's like, oh, you're doing a podcast. And I was like, okay, well, what are we going to call it? It's like in the flow. And I'm like, okay, what do you think, Robin?
Yeah, I loved it. Which is funny because it's so much of like what I've been healing, right? Because if you're in that habit of control, that pattern of control, which I very much have gotten to heal, you can't be in, right, the very word control, like you're not in the flow. You're not allowing life to unfold and to do its thing around you. So I was making a note. Sometimes I'll make notes about things that I want to go back and journal on later on. And I just thought that that was so divine, right? Like being in the flow. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want my life to be. Like, I want it to be that ease. I want, the universe to bring me together and like, oh yeah, we're going to do this thing. And like, it just very easily with grace, like comes out. So I made this note in my phone, but you know how your phone changes the word. So I had in the flow, and I was going to journal about it, but it changed it to I'm the flow. And I was like, ooh, it's so true, right? Like, I am the divine, I am the universe, I'm part of like all this magical energy that makes up our reality. Why would I fight against being in the flow, right?
Right.
Flow. Like, it gets to be with ease. It gets to be me kind of continuing to align with what the universe and my higher self, right? I believe that there's no coincidence that I'm where I am right now in life. My ego may not like it. My ego may be like, I didn't manifest this shit. I didn't know, like all the things. Your higher self and spirit and the universe is like, yeah, you wanted this to happen. You needed to learn, you needed to grow, you needed to expand. So that's the other thing about creativity and like manifesting is I think we can get stuck on, oh, well, I didn't manifest that because it's not, a Corvette and why did I even say Corvette? I like Corvettes. It's not a Porsche or whatever, an Audi. That would be my dream car, my R8. Um, Audi, if you ever want to give us some free cars, just throwing it out there into the universe. Um, we think that we didn't manifest it, but you're manifesting it, right? Like our soul wants to have these experiences. It wants to co-create. It wants to have these different realities that we're kind of vacillating between. So I just thought that was interesting. I was like, oh, I see you, universe. Like I am the flow. Okay, let me just make this easy for myself instead of like fighting against what is.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we are the flow. We are the divine. We are source experiencing itself in these human bodies. And one of the things that brings up for me is divine timing,
Mm,
because we think about spirituality, we think what everybody's teaching and it's sharing and expressing and manifesting is a big thing. People want to manifest. And so there is the idea of, yes, manifesting, getting in alignment, coming together, and also divine timing.
mm,
It has taken a long time for certain things to show up in my life. And I have been one pointed about that. Sometimes we can hold too tight to it, and opening up around it and letting it happen when it needs to. And that's where I've realized divine timing is a thing. So
mm,
everything happens exactly as it's supposed to in its perfect moment. And if we can just open up to, this is what I'm supposed to experience right now, and allow the divine timing to happen. So it doesn't mean that we're doing something wrong, because that's where it's like, okay, well, I'm doing something wrong, so let me change. No, doesn't mean that we're doing something wrong. It just means it's not right now.
mhm,
And this landed home for me so clearly. I was in a job I didn't really like, and I wanted a different job. And I went to work one day and they're like, you're going into this other position right now. I was like, what? And they're like, yep, you have the rest of the day to close this out, but we need you to work over here. And that job was done. I never did that job again. And it was like, so it can happen that quick. And that's where I step way back from stuff now. If I don't want to be in a job, okay, great. I don't want to be in the job. I'm open for whatever may come of it, because I could get moved that quick into another position. And it was like, they just picked me up and they're like, we need you in patient care and you're doing this job now. And I was like, okay, there is no world where I would have seen that happen. There's no way I could have manifested that. There's no way I could have gotten those details done. I just knew I was done with that position. I wanted something different. And so it moved me into this really beautiful job. That has taught me, it's like, it's not that I need to get real specific about all of the things. I just need to know what I don't want, what I want, and allow the universe to move things. And so if it's supposed to happen, it will happen. There is nothing that can stop it from happening. It will
mm,
happen that quickly. But if it is not the right timing, it will not happen. And it doesn't matter how many lists you create and how many intentions you set. Like, you just need to hold the space for shift to occur and allow the universe to do it in the right timing that is best for you. And I have learned so much. I can look back and say, yep, there's been good things, there's been bad things. None of them were a mistake. Like,
mm.
I am who I am at this moment because of all of that. And I'm able to do what I can. So I'm not behind others, and others aren't ahead of me or behind me. Like, we are all coming out and doing what we're supposed to do when we're supposed to. So not to say, oh, well, I'm 20 years older than you and I still haven't, your timing will come. And we
Mm.
just have to trust that that is happening. And there's people 20 years younger than me and they are rocking it because they came in and that was their timing. So I
Yeah.
have to be respectful of what my soul wants and my higher self wants.
Yeah, which is not, I just want to acknowledge people who are listening to that and struggling because I've certainly struggled with that. Like one situation in particular comes to mind. Um, After my divorce, I met somebody and it was like a total twin flame situation. I mean, I believe that we were supposed to meet and just trigger the shit out of each other because the healing that I ensued after I met this person, I mean, it changed my life in so many ways, but I tried to manifest the shit out of him. Like I was like, oh no, I'm gonna manifest him in. Like he had left, and I my thing around. It's like,
Your magic wand.
yeah, yeah, I'm gonna bring him back in. Like I was so sure that I was so sure, like I that I was because I was learning about, intentional like manifesting at that point. So shocker, I didn't manifest him back in. But it's like one of the greatest gifts that I've ever been given, that I didn't manifest that relationship that I thought I wanted so badly, because it wouldn't have been healthy for either of us. Like we just, I believe that we are kind of mirroring each other on a lot of things. But I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear that, that I had to surrender and that I had to accept things the way that they were. I just kept trying to manifest. So what ends up happening is like, here's kind of the flow, right, of the divine. And then if you're over here, like right, the river's flowing, my, my, this may not be good to watch, but right, the river's flowing. And then I'm trying to come in and like stop the river from flowing because I want this one thing. You're one little tiny like drop of water, right? And you're trying to get the entire river to change its direction. It's exhausting, it's frustrating, it's demeaning, like, and you're doing it to yourself, right? And again, like no judgment. It's just it is what it is, because I feel like we have to learn that. Or I had to learn that certainly. If you find that you're not manifesting something that you really desire and it's been a minute, be honest with yourself too, right? Maybe connect with your higher self through writing or through meditation or through prayer or whatever it is that you do to connect with source. Really be honest with yourself. Like, is this something that's actually meant to be in my life? And if it's not here now, then maybe it will be in the future. But, there comes a point where we have to accept what is, and we have to just allow things to like be in the flow and kind of just be what they're going to be, which is not it's not easy for us. It's just not easy sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and I think with that too, it's where should our focus and our intention be? I say should, it's not the greatest word, but what's the best thing for me to be focusing on and putting my intention towards right now? And
Mm.
I may want it to do this or to do this or to do this. And it's like, no, I can't tell you how much time and effort I wasted because I disliked my job so much. It was actually undermining all of the energy and all of the resources and all of the inspiration that the universe had for me to create something else.
Mm.
So it's like, if you're spinning your wheels, stop, just stop, because that's, you have energy. We've got our energy bank. So we're using it somewhere. So are we wasting our money? Are we wasting our energy, our time on things that are not with what we're really aligned to be doing? And can we shift our focus on our intention towards where the flow's coming in? And that's where our teacher, Deborah, had a chart, and it had all the different houses, 1 through 12, in a circle. And she would take cards and say, where does magic want to come in? She put the magician, in there with 12, with 11 other cards. So there's 12 cards. She'd put it in each of the houses. So maybe I was focused on, my career, my midheaven, the 10th house. And all of a sudden the magician shows up in, the 6th house around how I'm caring for myself, or it shows up in the 5th house around my creativity. So that's the other way, getting back to our creativity, where we can do fun things that, oh, this is exciting. Where does magic want to show up? Okay, let's put it, where am I stuck? Where's the emperor at, where things are too rigid? Putting that out there. But just using our different spiritual tools to help shift us. And then it's fun. And then it's play. And then it's like, okay, well, let's have the conversation around, what does magic in the 5th house look like? So
Mm.
how can I playfully shift myself into alignment and allow the other to fall away? And sometimes it's just moving our intention to something that brings us flow, that allows the flow to happen in that area where we were stuck. So creativity and intention, mixing those together can really help us move forward, finding that flow and using fun creative tools to find that flow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we've solved all the problems of the world. We got
I know I feel better because at the end of this, I've given myself enough homework. So now I need to go find out where magic wants to come into my life. And
Uh-huh.
I need to find, go move some stuff around my house again and get rid of some clutter and extra emails.
Yeah, I have
So
notes. Yeah, I was like trying to take notes on mine. Um, yeah, I mean, I think so. Kind of one more thing. This might seem like totally off topic, but I feel like we're kind of coming to our close. So just also sharing, right, if you're a healer, if you're somebody who's wanting to kind of take that next step into doing this kind of work, you don't have to have it all figured out. I mean, I think the beauty of us showing up is that, and I think this is something else Deborah shared with us, right? I know I've certainly heard it from multiple mentors. Wherever we are, there's always going to be somebody who's further along than us, but there's always going to be somebody who needs our help and who might be a couple of steps behind us in a certain area, right? They might be better in or further along. I wouldn't say better. They might be further along in one area, but right, when people are brought into your awareness, it's because you're both able to help each other, right? Like we learn so much through holding space. We learn so much through having these open conversations. So I don't know who needed to hear that. Like flop in the comment box if that was you, if you feel like sharing. Just it's so important to remember that none of us has this thing figured out. Like we're always learning, right? We came on to chat about one thing and spirit's like giving us tons of homework and like insights and things to kind of contemplate. So yeah, share with us and it's 333 right now where we are. So right, three is the number of creativity and flow.
yeah.
Love that. All right. Thank you all for joining us. I will let Jessica close us if she desires because she is so much better at it.
I mean, you hit her, right on top. We all have our unique, amazing gifts. Everyone has them, and we are better when we get to experience the gifts from others. So, yes, the person in front of you has things that will help you, and you have things that will help them. And it's a beautiful co-creation. So if we can shift our mindset and realize that everyone we're interacting with, we're helping them, they're helping us, even if it may not be seen as being helpful, like we really are helping each other and we're really complementing each other in our energies and we're teaching each other lessons, then it really takes another layer and we're moving more into the divine because that's how it is in the divine realm. That's how it is with source. And we're moving away from the mundane. So that's how we make the profane sacred by realizing that it's been sacred all along and we just have to see that. So that's my invitation is how can we bring more magic, more divinity into our moment by us realizing what we've got going on around on another level and then being supported by that higher level of divinity, allowing it to heal us around our separation from source, realizing that we've never left. Source is always universe, divine is always with us. And we just have to remember that. We just have to be open and available to see that. And then it shifts the energy. Then we can feel consistently supported. And then what are the things that we can do to remind ourselves? Because I forget. So,
Mhm.
Robin, remind me that we are constantly in divinity, like whoever it is, whatever it is, whether it's a crystal or something, but just remembering that and knowing
Yeah.
that helps.
Um, I want to share one more thing just quickly. So I've got to go to a forgiveness healing ceremony earlier. And at the end of it, right, because we can spend so much time like focusing on what's not working or what's not right. And we all know, right, how important gratitude is. But I just had this moment of there's so many things that we have to be grateful for, like there's so many things that we take for granted in our life. And if you can tune into that, like Jessica saying, like the other stuff just kind of falls away. So it's like continue to attune to the things that are beautiful in your life, continue to attune the things that light you up. I mean, we walk into our kitchen and we push a switch and we have a light turn on. Like shit's cool. Like cool, man. So have that creativity and like that wild, that childlike wonder about your life. And just, right, we have music that we get to listen to. We have these, beautiful conversations we get to have. Looking at life almost like you're an alien or like you're a child from that playful perspective can really also shift things. So, okay, that's my 12 cents on.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And if you liked it, like, subscribe, comment. We would love to create a conversation that kind of moves us forward. So we want your input. We want to hear how things are going, and just sending lots of love to you and appreciation and connection.
Yeah. And if you don't like us, we still love you. You can just, we'll lovingly release you. Go find somebody that you resonate with. I don't know if I wanted to share that. We still love you though.
Oh, no, I'm going to support that. Please find somebody that you resonate with. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
If coming into this and you're like, I don't want to listen to them, what do you want to listen to? What speaks to your heart? So what are you resonating with? And having that contrast helps us. So yes, if you like us,
Yeah.
great. And if you don't, please find what you do resonate with and allow that to heal and whole you.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's no judgment in that either.
No, there isn't.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
I can see the stars align, dance around the moon every night. And now my eyes are open wide, and the sky has never looked so bright. Now I don't need to see the road to believe, to believe.